3 different women, 3 different years, 3 completely different situations, work, love, friendship, and somehow the exact same playbook, the same manipulation tactics, the same escalation, the same moments where reality twisted until you weren't sure what was real anymore. You escaped the first one and thought you'd learned your lesson. Then the second one appeared, different face, same weapon. You survived her, rebuilt yourself, fortified your walls. And then the third one arrived, like she was summoned by your recovery. Tell me, at what point does coincidence stop being coincidence? Once is bad luck. Twice is a pattern worth examining. But 3 times with different entry points, different disguises, different first impressions, that stops feeling like chance. That starts feeling like targeting. Most people who talk about narcissistic abuse focus on the individual, her psychology, her tactics, her disorder. But here's what that analysis misses: the things survivors eventually recognize on their own, usually in the dark, usually alone. They don't operate alone. They appear in sequences. They seem coordinated, even when they've never met each other. They escalate when one attacker fails, as if the next one received a briefing you never saw. This sounds paranoid. I know, until you've lived it. Then it sounds like the first honest description of your experience you've ever heard. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you changes everything about how you understand what happened to you. Let me tell you how she found you. The mythology says narcissists prey on the weak, the broken, the damaged, the easy marks. That's not true. Survivors know better. They weren't chosen because of their deficits. They were chosen because of their strength. Your warmth, your capacity to see the best in people, your ability to walk into a room and make others feel genuinely seen, your endless willingness to give people second chances. These aren't weaknesses. They're gifts, but they're also signals, and she was calibrated to detect them. She watched you first, sometimes for weeks. She identified who attracted energy naturally, who moved through life with an open heart, who was confident but still kind, the specific combination that signals strength without raised defenses. Then she made her move, and it wasn't random. The first approach carried precision. She identified what you valued most about yourself and reflected it back, amplified. She mapped your wounds and presented herself as healing for exactly those wounds. The early perfection wasn't chemistry or luck. It was reconnaissance converted into strategy. You thought you'd finally found someone who understood. Someone who matched your depth, your intensity, your hunger for real connection. What you'd found was a mirror, engineered to capture you. Now here's the part that shocks people. The cruelty that followed wasn't a side effect of her manipulation. It was the product. She derives power from your pain. Not metaphorically, functionally. Your confusion, your self-doubt, your shattered confidence. These things transfer something to her. Your collapse generates her expansion. Your diminishment creates her elevation. The more thoroughly she broke you, the more complete she felt. And it followed a pattern so predictable it almost has a script. Phase 1. Inconsistency. Warmth and coldness alternating unpredictably, keeping you off balance, working harder to restore what seemed so promising. You didn't realize the inconsistency was the strategy. Phase 2. Isolation. One by one, the people who might have offered you a reality check got quietly positioned as threats to the relationship. You withdrew from them, not because she demanded it, but because maintaining those connections required energy she'd already drained. Phase 3. Direct attack. Gaslighting intensified. Your memories got rewritten. Your perceptions got invalidated. Reality became unstable because she was deliberately destabilizing it, and your exhaustion had compromised your ability to hold ground. Phase 4. Devastation. Careers suffering. Health deteriorating. Relationships withered. Your sense of self eroded to the point where you weren't sure who you were anymore, or whether anything you perceive could be trusted. Many assignments are completed here. The target was extinguished. Mission accomplished. But some targets don't break. And that's when something unusual happens. You hit bottom, and instead of nothing, you found something she didn't expect. A foundation she couldn't shatter. A core that persisted despite everything she threw at it. You survived, And survival changes the entire equation. Because a survivor who understands is dangerous. The narcissist's power depends entirely on confusion, on you blaming yourself, on a manufactured reality remaining unquestioned. When you begin to see clearly, the spell breaks. Her techniques become transparent. Her manipulations become predictable. She loses leverage the moment you've decoded her playbook. And she knows it, which brings us to the part nobody warns you about. The friend who appeared during your recovery. Sympathetic, validating, different from the person you just escaped. She'd witnessed your struggle from the sidelines and reached out at exactly the right moment. She seemed like healing. She positioned herself as someone who understood. Then the familiar patterns started emerging. Subtle inconsistencies. Manipulation disguised as support. The same destabilizing techniques in different packaging. She arrived with knowledge of your specific wounds. Wounds that were still fresh, still raw, still exposed. She appeared at the optimal moment. She targeted the exact injuries left by the previous attack. And she was connected to the first one. The second assault felt coordinated, even though no visible coordination existed. This is what survivors report consistently across cultures, across different life situations. The secondary attacker who seems linked to the primary. The chain of encounters that appears to be linked. The sense that surviving one attack triggered the dispatch of another. They hunt in packs. Now I need to tell you something that will reframe everything you've been through. The scale of what was deployed against you is information. Ordinary targets don't attract extraordinary assault. If multiple narcissists found you, if life circumstances seemed to pile on exactly when you were most vulnerable, if the attacks escalated precisely when you started recovering, that tells you something crucial about your value, not your weakness. The darkness doesn't waste resources. You were targeted because you carry something worth targeting. Your warmth, your authenticity, your capacity to generate love and light and genuine connection. These are things she cannot create independently. And something beyond her individually seems invested in extinguishing them. Call it whatever your worldview permits. But acknowledge what survivors consistently describe. A sense that their targeting wasn't random. That the assault served some purpose beyond any individual narcissist's gratification. That resistance attracted escalation, as if something wanted them broken and would keep sending reinforcements until the job was done. Here's the most important thing I'll say in this entire video. She wins if you become like her. Cold, guarded, incapable of connection, viewing every person as a potential threat. Your light extinguished, not through direct attack, but through the defensive transformation that attack produces. You survive the assault, but lose what made you worth assaulting. That is the conversion agenda. Turn the light bearer into a darkness carrier. Ensure that even survival expands the darkness rather than preserving the light. Resisting this is the real victory. The bitterness wants to settle in, and it has justification. Nobody would blame you for becoming hard and closed. But being reasonable isn't the same as winning. You win by keeping what she tried to take. The warmth, the trust, the capacity to love, held now with discernment instead of naivety, protected now by boundaries instead of blind openness. Caution is not calcification. Boundaries are not walls. Discernment is not the death of connection. Here's how you actually fortify yourself going forward. Knowledge is armor. Understanding the playbook converts ambush into anticipated maneuver. When you can name love bombing, devaluation, and discard before they complete, she loses the element of surprise that makes the whole strategy work. Community is reinforcement. The isolation tactic only functions if you cooperate with it. Maintaining real connections, especially with people who've survived similar patterns, creates the reality checking that stops gaslighting from taking root. She cannot rewrite your reality when others are continuously confirming it. And your light requires active cultivation, not just passive protection. Service to others, meaningful work, authentic connection with people who appreciate rather than harvest. These aren't luxuries of recovery. They're how you rebuild what she tried to demolish, stronger this time and wiser. You survived what was meant to destroy you. The assignment failed. She came for your light and left with nothing. The reinforcements came for what remained and found themselves outmatched. More attacks may come, but you're not the same person who was captured initially. You see the patterns now. You recognize the approach before it completes. The advantage that surprise once gave them is permanently gone. They hunt in packs, but packs can be recognized. They attack systematically, but systems can be decoded. They escalate when initial assaults fail, but escalation can be prepared for. Everything that once made them effective becomes a vulnerability the moment the target understands the methodology. You understand now. And somewhere, whatever coordinates these attacks is registering the failure. Because the light they tried to extinguish, it burns brighter now than before they tried. That's the only victory statement you need. Everything else is just an application. If this describes something you've lived through, share your pattern in the comments. How many appeared? How were they connected? Your experience might help someone still inside the fog recognize what's happening to them. Subscribe for more content on surviving narcissistic assault, recognizing coordinated targeting, and building defenses that actually hold.